So today we are going to learn about skeletal system. Skeletal system is also called as musculoskeletal system. I am writing it here now. Musculoskeletal system. And why is it called as musculoskeletal system? Because skeletal system is associated by the role of muscles in it. The bones cannot function in it on its own. The bones are arranged in a definitive structure, but when the muscles come into picture, the muscles are present so as to make the movement of the bones possible, right? That is the role of muscles here. And when we categorize muscles, there are three different categories of muscles. They are skeletal muscles, there are cardiac muscles, and there are smooth muscles. So about these we have already learned in the muscular system lecture that there are three different categories of muscles: skeletal, cardiac and smooth. And by the name we can understand what do they mean. Skeletal muscle is responsible for helping in the skeletal functions of the body. And by skeletal functions we definitely means we are talking about something which is able to perform some kind of a movement, right? Cardiac muscles, as the name say, cardiac muscles are associated with the heart. So they are present in the heart region. And when we are talking about the smooth muscles are located at different variable organs of the body, majorly inside the body. And when we categorize them on the basis of their functions, then the skeletal muscles are voluntary in nature. Okay. Cardiac muscles are involuntary in nature, and so is the smooth muscle. These two categories are involuntary. Okay, so when I say involuntary, when I attach the word in front of voluntary, so voluntary is something which is as per your will, right? And involuntary, when I attach the word in front of it, it means it is something which is against your will, or something which you cannot control, right? So literal meaning would be against your will or something which you cannot decide. But when we are talking in terms of skeletal system, cardiac, smooth, all the types of muscles, then it means voluntary means something which is under your control. Involuntary means something which is not under your control. So in case of skeletal systems, the muscles present here are skeletal muscles and they are voluntary in nature. We also call it as the musculoskeletal system. 18% of the bones are forming the body's weight, right? So the body weight has 18% of bones. So now let's discuss about the different functions of the skeletal system. The most important function of the skeletal system is providing support. Okay, it provides support to the human body, or also responsible for maintenance of the posture. If you are sitting, if you are sleeping, if you are standing, in any of the posture, bones are majorly responsible for providing a definitive structure, right? And then one most important function also here is protection. How is the skeletal system responsible for protection? In case of any kind of a physical injury, the vital organs are protected by this bony skeletal system. So we have definitive structures inside the body which are formed with the help of different bones which are housing or capsulating different vital organs. Like we can give an example of rib cage, right? So this is how a rib cage looks like, and inside the rib cage we have lungs and heart, right? We have lungs and heart. So if there is any kind of physical injury, or there is any kind of an internal injury, in any of those cases they are responsible for protecting, because they are sturdy and they are shock absorbers sort of, so they do not allow any kind of a damage to the internal vital organs. Then another important function of skeletal system is maintenance of mineral homeostasis. Mineral homeostasis. So when I say homeostasis, I think so this is the first most primary important word. Whenever you are introduced to anatomy and physiology, you always learn about what is homeostasis. So homeostasis is basically maintenance of the balance. It could be maintenance of the temperature balance, maintenance of the ionic balance, maintenance of any kind of imbalance, and restoring that thing to a normal internal environment. So if there is any kind of a change happening inside the body due to external factors or due to internal factors, all of those are reverted back to normal by the process of homeostasis. Then I am attaching the word here mineral homeostasis, right? So calcium, phosphorus, these are some important minerals which are a part of the human bones. The human bone is made up of calcium, phosphorus and other mineral ions. So whenever there is any kind of a deficit of these ions inside our blood, Then the bone is responsible for releasing these ions, and whenever there is an increase of these ions in the blood, then the bone is reabsorbing these ions. So this kind of restoration of the ionic balance or restoration of the mineral balance is performed by the human bone or by the human skeletal system. I think so you have heard about the terms or about the hormones, parathormone, calcitonin, how they are responsible for maintenance of the calcium and phosphorus balance. So yes, bones have an important role to play there. Okay, then there is new another word here called as hemopoiesis. Okay, so when I say hemopoiesis, I think so, just 1 minute. Poiesis means, this word means formation. So whenever you will hear the word poiesis, you will immediately understand that something is being formed here. Here it is called as hemo. Hemo correlates to the word blood. Okay, these are the terms which are non-English terms. And how do we derive its meaning? By breaking them into different parts and understanding its individual meanings, and we'll have the entire meaning to it. Hemo and poiesis, so formation of the blood. Then formation of blood, how is blood being formed? Blood is being formed by the help of different cells. What kind of blood cells are present inside the human blood? We have RBCs, we have WBCs, we have platelets, right? Then again we can further classify WBCs into different categories: monocytes, leukocytes, like granulocyte and agranulocyte, and further dividing them. That is what we have learned in the blood chapter. So hemopoiesis is also one important function of the skeletal system. Next important function of the skeletal system here is, okay, then there is one question which is arising, that where is the hemopoiesis happening? Okay, so hemopoiesis is happening in the long bone ends. In the end of long bones, there is a small compact tissue, spongy in nature, called as bone marrow. Okay, this is not a new term, a lot of you have heard about it, but now let's understand what is happening here. It is called as red bone marrow. Okay, it is called as red bone marrow. Why is it called as red? Because it is responsible for formation of the blood cells. So red bone marrow is basically present in the end of long bones, and it is responsible for hemopoiesis, that is for the formation of blood cells, right? Red bone marrow is also present a lot in not many places in the fetal stage, but in the adults only some of the bones are responsible for having red bone marrow. So red bone marrow is having stem cells which are pluripotent in nature, and they have the capacity to differentiate into RBCs, WBCs, platelets, and whatever type of cells required by the body, right? So hemopoiesis is one important factor, one important function of the skeletal system. Another one is formation of triglycerides. So triglyceride is formed by yellow bone marrow. So we also have yellow bone marrow present in the bones and responsible for the formation of adipose tissue. So now whenever we say adipose, adipose means formation of fat. And why do we need fat here? Because the bone ends are need to be protected by adipose tissue to provide any breakage to the bones. So any kind of impact directly on the bone, because the bones are can also be broken down due to any kind of an impact. That is why they are also protected by adipose tissue, which is formed by the triglyceride. We also need adipose tissue in many other areas for cushioning of the various different body organs, for providing energy to the body. That is all what we know about skeletal system. Now let's come down to how a structure of bone looks like, right? So I am removing this. How a bone looks like. So this is a structure of human bone. I hope so you are familiar with the terms proximal and distal, right? So proximal and distal we'll be learning here. We'll be discussing here probably. Okay. So this is the area which is called as the spongy bone. Okay. This is housing the process of hemopoiesis. This is the spongy bone. And what is happening here? RBC formation is happening here, or hemopoiesis is happening here. This is one end of the bone, this is another end of the bone. So whenever we take the term proximal, that means something which is near. Whenever we talk about the term distal, that means something which is far. So this is the proximal end. Okay. And this is the distal end. Okay. The proximal end of the bone and distal end of the bone. So it's called as proximal epiphysis. This is called as distal epiphysis. Okay. So epiphysis is the end of the bone. If we call it proximal epiphysis, that means it is the near end. If we call it distal epiphysis, that means it is the far end. So the thickness of the bone is due to periosteum. Periosteum. Okay, this is one word. Periosteum is the thickness of the bone, also responsible for providing nourishment to the bone. Okay. So when you hear the word again, when we break down this word in, it's basically a mixture of two different words, peri and osteum. Osteum means we are talking about the osteocells or the osteo thing. What is osteo? Osteo means bone. Peri means periphery. Okay, so the thickness of the bone is called as periosteum, also responsible for the nourishment of the bone. Inside the bone, the inside of the bone is called as endoosteum. Endoosteum. Endo means inside. Again, osteum means we are talking about the bone here. Okay. So now this region, now we have three more different region here. One is the length of the bone. It is called as the diaphysis. Diaphysis is the length of the bone or the shaft of the bone. So if you are talking about how long is the bone, diaphysis is that area. Okay. Probably this is this long. This is called as metaphysis. Okay. Metaphysis is also present here. Metaphysis is also present here. Metaphysis is responsible for connecting epiphysis with the diaphysis. Got it? Metaphysis is connecting epiphysis with the diaphysis. Diaphysis is the length of the bone. Metaphysis is connecting proximal epiphysis with the diaphysis and also diaphysis with the distal epiphysis, right? Endoosteum is inside of the bone. Periosteum is the thickness of the bone. And then we have a nutrient artery present here which is providing nutrition inside the nutrient foramen. This is called as the nutrient artery. This is the spongy bone and this is the compact bone. Right? This is the compact bone. Okay. So I think so there are all the functions present here. In the proximal epiphysis, I think so you can see this region. Similarly, it is present here also. This is the distal region. This is called as articular cartilage. What is this? This is called as articular cartilage. And why do we need cartilage? I think so you've learned about in the tissues. Cartilages are responsible for combining one bone to another bone. Okay, so cartilage is present here. Articular cartilage is combining one bone to another bone. That is only how a joint is possible when two bones are present and they are aligned with the help of a joint. That is how we are able to move them. Okay, that is how they can move over each other and create some kind of a movement in the body. And what is helping in performing this movement? The muscles, obviously, which are controlling the bones, right? For making the process, for making the functions like contraction or relaxation, all of these things are making a movement possible. So this is a brief introduction about the skeletal system. In next lectures, we'll be learning about how a skeletal system functions, what is actin, what is myosin, how is the contraction possible. Then we'll also be learning about myofibril, the detailed internal structure of myofibril. So lectures like this will help you in cracking examinations and also having a deep insight about anatomy and physiology. Thank you.